Good evening, Nigerians, and welcome to a new week. This week that starts today, and precisely from tomorrow being the first working day of the week, is going to be a turning point in the history of Nigeria. I think this week that will start from tomorrow, the working week that will start from tomorrow, is going to completely define Nigeria. Where are we headed? Are we a democracy? Are we a country that is governed and manipulated by a few people, whether they find themselves in the judiciary or in the executive? Are we in the pocket of few politicians and some money bags? I want us to pay attention in this our discussion tonight, because it will lend to us a few ideas of where Nigeria is headed to. And I do seriously wish that some of our thoughts and fears will indeed remain fears, that they will not come true. During our program last night, we did mention to us how that it looks as though the Supreme Court in Nigeria is trying to jam through their hearing of the appeal by the PDP, Labour Party, and APM. And the possibility of them even giving their verdict on the presidential elections petitions this same week we're entering. So the hearing will start tomorrow, and the verdict will be given this same week in what might be the shortest period of Supreme Court's hearing and delivering judgment in presidential election matters. We dealt heavily on that last night also, how that Aaron Greenspan, who is the lawyer that is representing David Hundeyin and co., made an emergency application to a court in the US, asking the courts to please hear him out, because from Nigeria, Tinubu's people have already gone there to do what? To become an intervener. You do know that it's almost a month plus now that FBI, DEA, IRS, Homeland Security, all of them in the US, gave an idea that they will start releasing the document held in the name of yours truly from this month. FBI specifically said that they have over 70,000 files. However, 2,500 will be of interest to David Hundeyin based on the question he's asking. And that they will start from this October to start releasing those files. In fact, more precisely, they were to drop about 500 files, pages of files, from tomorrow being the 23rd of October. From nowhere, we heard about an injunction in the US court, asking the court to hold on until they are given the right of fair hearing, which we concluded might just be a way to delay justice. And the moment now, they themselves, when they file their case in the US, they specifically asked the court to give them ears from 31st of October. And then immediately our own Supreme Court moved in to request that the hearing of the petition will be tomorrow. And then again, we also learned, which we presented to us yesterday, that the chairman of the panel of the appeal court is due for his terminal leave from the end of this week. The question, therefore, is, how could he chair a panel that have even up to November by law to deliver judgment when he is proceeding on a terminal leave? Does it mean that they want to jump through the whole thing, deliver judgment, and run away, and then ask us that they will give us the details of the judgment whenever they feel like? And why is it that it looks like there's a coordination between the occupiers of Aso Rock and the managers of the Supreme Court in when which one comes? As the one from US, they are asking for an ear from 31st. They are trying to jump through the Supreme Court hearing from within this week. And that was why Aaron Greenspan went and asked the court for emergency hearing. that he wants it to be done, if possible, tomorrow, so that these files will start coming out. And he specifically put it in that court paper that we are dealing with a case of heroin and money laundering, which is a federal crime in the US. Remember that here they were arguing that it is a civil forfeiture. And money laundering and heroin trafficking is a federal crime, not just in the US, but all over the world. And in fact, there is a pact between US and many other countries like Nigeria. If you're caught in transporting or dealing with heroin in the US or in Nigeria, they have bilateral relationship in how your case is going to be handled. So the big questions people are asking is it possible that they want to deliver this judgment before the files start coming out? Because the Supreme Court judges don't want it to be on the burden, on their conscience or on their shoulders, having known the enormity of what those files contain, and still go ahead to rule in favor. And so these are all the things we discussed yesterday. You can go to the program we had yesterday. But much more than then was the fact that we also mentioned yesterday, I don't know if you can show me the file of the list of all the judges that will be handling the cases and their states. We also mentioned yesterday that these are the judges that will be handling the presidential election petition appeal. And the man on the first from Niger State, aside from the imbalance in the geographical spread, the man on top is due for retirement. The woman in the middle, Justice Helen, do not just have a stake in APC project, in that his son, being a lawyer, is an APC defense lawyer in this election litigation period. And another son of hers is a current serving member of House of Representatives. And so people are wondering, should such a person not recuse herself? Should a man who is about to retire not recuse himself? We learned it on good note. I think, was it Justice Kekere Ekun or what? I don't know. That one of the justices recused herself because her husband sits in the board of Atiku Abubakar's university. He's just a board member. And she considered it a conflict of interest. My husband has something to do with the appellant business, so I don't need to be there. But this person has her own blood children, not just having something to do with appellants or respondents, but working for the same party that she's going to be delivering judgment upon. So it's more like her son is going to bring the case before her, and she's going to hear the case of her son. So all these are the things that are causing concerns to Nigerians. And then we come to the topic of what we're hearing tonight, that there are rumors making the round that some of these justices, because of the crying of Nigerians, some of these justices started doing what? Recusing themselves. We heard it that this woman, Justice Helen, recused herself for personal reasons. We heard it that the man who is supposed to chair the panel recused himself because he's about to retire. And then again, there is further news again that is flying that it is fake, that those things never happened. So we are not here to say that we have confirmed this news or we have not confirmed it. But we're here to lay bare the two cases. If it is indeed true that 3 justices from this panel have recused themselves, it will lead to constitutional crisis in Nigeria, because currently we have 12 justices of the Supreme Court. According to law, presidential elections decisions, presidential elections appeal must be heard by 7 justices. Now, what it means is that if about 5 people in total have recused themselves, we are going to have maximum of 7 that is remaining now out of the 12. It means that they don't have a choice. All these 12 people must sit now to hear this case, meaning that the judges have been deprived, the remaining judges have been deprived of their fundamental human right of saying, I want to, because you can't force them on the panel, I want to recuse myself for personal interest or the other. But if they go ahead to stay, assuming these judges, assuming this man that is about to retire this week continues, and he reaches the time of his retirement by law, and he did not proceed on terminal leave, it means that a man who shouldn't be serving is still serving. That in itself is a constitutional glitch too. So whether we like it or not, there is a challenge today as long as this presidential elections appeal is concerned. The justices are confused. There is skeleton in one cupboard or the other amongst the people who are coming to sit and deliver this judgment. Honorable Musa Datijo Mohammed is due to resign by the end of this week with the official proceeding of her terminal leave. Will he sit as the chairman of a panel? Because the Constitution still allowed this court to sit up until the middle of November. But his services terminates by end of this week. So will they crash through to deliver judgment? Or will they allow someone who should be on leave, who is not, as it were, officially serving, to still continue to serve? How do they want to reconcile this whole thing? We do not know. So this is where we are coming from tonight. And I will give time for my colleague Ifoma to say something, and we continue from there, because there are many other things coming up. Like I'm told that Aaron Greenspan is being disturbed from Nigeria by the lawyers and by the APT people. But let me just let her say something before we continue.
Yeah, Doc, thank you very much for all you've said. I just want to say that we have a judicial system where our judges and the people heading our judiciary, they are just there for their own interest, you know. They are not there to protect the interest of Nigerians, the interest of the masses. Because all this back and forth is because we have people whose hands are not really that clean when it comes to handling issues of election in Nigeria. People easily sell their conscience, you know, they easily just yield to the influence and the will of these politicians. I believe Doc will be talking about what is happening currently in Imo State. The Supreme Court is here to a kind of start hearing on a case that was filed since 2000. They want to like start hearing that case now. So you can imagine after 3 years of Governor Uzodinma, he's almost completing his tenure. It is now that our Supreme Court, our justices are finding it convenient to start hearing, not even delivering final judgment, just to begin to give it a scratch. So you just look at the whole thing, you just conclude that, honestly, we can't build a country like this. We can't build a country like this. No doubt they were trying to shut the masses up when they were saying all eyes on the judiciary. Because if Nigerians don't speak up, if you just keep quiet, these people will just take us for nothing. So it's becoming clearer that, honestly, these people do not even stand with the masses. They do not stand, I mean the judges, they do not stand with the masses. Easily, they give in to the will of these politicians. And for me, I think this is where we really got it wrong in this country. It is very difficult to fix Nigeria with this kind of ailing foundation that we have. We have a very big problem when it comes to leadership. And because it's just because we have people who are just after their own personal interests. So it will be interesting to see how all this play out. Like we said last time, that the current president has gone to stop the FBI from releasing this file, which they think would be of a damaging effect on his personality, because the FBI will give it, not only the FBI, there are other agencies like the CIA and others They'll be giving details on what they know about this person, all the period he stayed in the US. And that is what he doesn't really want them to do. So they moved to like stop that from happening. But this man, this Aaron Greenspan, he has taken it upon him, you know, to like tell the FBI, you cannot afford to mess the whole process up, that you have got to release this information. People want to know. And it's going to help us as Nigerians to also understand the person we are dealing with, the person who is our president. So we are just going to see how all this play out. Don't forget that the main issue now is that they are just hurrying the Supreme Court to deliver judgment on this case before the FBI start rolling out the information that they have. That is just the thing that is happening now, and they don't want they don't want the press. The press won't even come out to say things like this. They won't come out to like reveal some of these things. But this is actually what they are trying to do, to make sure they deliver judgment so that whatever is coming, that will be medicine after them. Remember, once the Supreme Court rules, that is just final. You can't appeal it. Whether they rule in your favor or against you, you cannot appeal it. And they will just come out to read their judgment. They won't even allow you to like make your case. The Supreme Court justices will just come, say what they want to say, and that is just the end. They might tell you when you'll be able to get the copies of the judgment. So these are some of the things that we don't just want them to take Nigeria for granted. They should take steps that will rescue Nigeria, save our democracy, and also save the future of the Nigerian youth, which these our old politicians are not even paying attention to. Doc, I'll leave it at that point. Please, back to you.
Yeah, there was that tweet by Aaron Greenspan about calls he's getting from Nigeria.
Yeah, I think it's from, he was trying to respond to the spokesperson for the media person for the president. Yeah, you can see like this person tweeted and said, has replied Bayo Anonuga. So he was like responding because they were laying allegations on him that, he's just trying to, their way. They will just say one thing.
Yeah.
So he's like telling them that he doesn't even know who Atiku is. So he's not doing this for Atiku. He has not met Atiku. He has not spoken with Atiku. Yes. He's not even a Nigerian. But these are people that believe in justice. These are people that believe in things being done the right way. Things should be done the right way. If you want to become a public figure, get ready to open up to the public. Tell the people who you are. Allow them to release your information, just like that of Chicago State University. At the time, we got to know that the person was a female. The person had 3 dates of birth. The person did not graduate. The person never had, got any certificate from the school. So who gave you the one you gave to INEC? And all that. If not that Chicago State University swore under oath or testified under oath, the deposition, we wouldn't have known all that. And this is what we want the court to rule on. And now they want to like hurry up before the FBI releases what they've got to send to David Hundeyin. Apart from that, let me just add this. David Hundeyin has really been lamenting on, attempts on his life. I don't even know if I have any file as to that. He has been really lamenting on attempts. They've been sending people to see if they could get him in one way or the other. Sorry, this is not the file I wanted to share with you. But I think I've got a file like that. But so what I'm trying to say is that they've seen that, okay, the only way we can stop the public from getting this information is by removing the source of the information, because David Hundeyin is the one releasing some of this, information about the FBI, Chicago State University, what is going on and what is not going on. So possibly they felt if they can just do away with him, that will bring an end to all this. So, each day he come up on Twitter to like share his experience, because it appears he's like having fresh experiences on how they are trying to like lay hold on him. But I think our not even our judiciary, our politicians should know that we are in an age where information is not something you can just hide anymore. Even if it doesn't come from David, someone else somewhere can easily bring up all those things that David is showcasing. So I don't really think they should just be going after David. Rather, they should accept their mistake, that they filled in the wrong candidate. Somebody even said this mistake did not come from the sitting president. Possibly when he was born, there wasn't that proper recording of his date of birth or the school he attended. Or, the mistake has been done. Why not come and admit your mistake? Even if you are disqualified, let it be a lesson for upcoming politicians so that they don't come to continue with all this kind of rascality. For me, that is how I'm looking at it. He would have allowed himself to be, that instrument of sanitizing our political system. But, Nigeria, they are trying to meander everything just to ensure he remains in that office. So, Doc, let me allow you just go on with what we have for today.
Thank you so much. Now, let me rephrase it, put us through again. This week, the Supreme Court may just function in a way to be the shortest time they have ever had presidential elections appeal and deliver judgment. They intend to hear the motions of the parties tomorrow, being 23rd. And there is a possibility that by Friday, they will give their verdict, but may not release the judgment, the certified true copy of how they arrived at their verdict. Are you listening now? They will have one-page verdict they will read. And then they will take time to write their 500 pages of the reason why how they arrive at it, and may release it 1 or 2 months later so that tension may have died down. The reason being that the man who is heading the panel is due for retirement this week. Second reason being that they are trying to railroad this hearing and get it to the end done with before FBI releases any of their files. FBI intended to start releasing their files from tomorrow, but the president's men have gone to the US again to file an injunction to stay that execution so that they can be heard. And they themselves volunteered to ask the court to hear them 31st being upper week, within which Supreme Court would have released the judgment. Aaron Greenspan, who is acting on behalf of David Hunde, filed emergency motion over the weekend, asking the courts to bring the hearing forward, probably tomorrow, so that they can hear the enormity of the reasons why this particular file should go out immediately. One of the points he raised in the very first paragraph of his petition, of his motion, is that the case in question has to do with heroin trafficking and money laundering that resulted in criminal forfeiture. Contrary to the argument in Nigeria that it is civil forfeiture, it is the bank that committed crime. Aaron Greenspan said to the court, when FBI and DEA releases their file, they will know the extent to which this individual in question was involved in these criminal activities. So, out of fear and out of abundance of caution, they are pushing to make sure that before this file comes out, the Supreme Court would have validated the election. And remember that the current Minister of Justice was the defense lawyer in this case. Even before the appeal court gave their judgment, they promoted him and made him Minister of Justice and Attorney General, meaning that he's now the chief executive officer of the whole judicial system in Nigeria. The promotion of judges, the increase in their salary, their welfare, whether they drive car, whether they go on courses, it is his ministry that will approve all those things. Therefore, they made a defense lawyer to become the boss to the judges that will give judgment in the case where he was a defense lawyer. I will leave it to us Nigerians to think and to decide where this whole scheming is going to. And then we also have in this same panel people who have every reason not to be there. You couldn't be a panel that will rule in a case against a political party whereby your own son is a defense lawyer for that political party, which is one of the parties in the case, and your other son is a sitting member of House of Representatives for the same party, that the case is before your courts. That is why people are wondering, what moral clearance do someone like Helen Ogunmujimiju have to still sit in this panel? Why hasn't she recused herself? Rumors went out that she has recused herself, but it's not authenticated yet. So we don't know until tomorrow, being Monday. Till tomorrow, we know whether Aaron Greenspan's motion receives the court approval. Until tomorrow, we know how many of the judges have recused themselves, or those who are sitting in the panel, until tomorrow. But proceeding to that, we have every reason to believe that when we think about our court using technicality, like what happened in the election petitions court during the presidential election petitions court at the level of the appeal court, wait until you see the Supreme Court. When they deploy technicality, it is shaking. It can cost Nigeria years. And how am I saying this? You remember that in Imo State, Hope Uzodinma is currently the governor of Imo State. They are planning for election in November. However, the Supreme Court themselves have given a judgment that should make it impossible for the man to be in power right from as far back as July 2020. And he's still there. And the reason being that when PDP filed a motion, they filed a motion to the Supreme Court to enforce, to give verdict on the judgment they have given. The Supreme Court themselves gave a date for hearings in July 2020 to August 31st, 2023. For a case of someone who is sitting in power, meaning they gave a blanket permission for this man to stay in power for at least 3 years, 4 years almost, for at least going to 4 years. Supreme Court deliberately did it. Let me see that particular judgment of the Supreme Court. I think I sent it to you as a slide, so I can read it for Nigerians, what the Supreme Court say, and then I'll give us a build-up to the case. This is what happened in the Imo State election, pre-election cases in Imo State. Nwosu, who was the son-in-law to former governor, what was the governor of the name of the governor of Imo State then? Rocha Sokorocha. Can you give me that slide of the Supreme Court judgment, if you can? Uche Nwosu, who was the son-in-law, was APC candidate and APA candidate at the same time. APC, All Progressive Congress candidate, and All Action People's Alliance candidate at the same time. And because of that, I think PDP went to court to challenge it. It started from the High Court, got to the Appeal Court. Appeal Court ruled against Uche Nwosu that he cannot hold double nomination. He can't put his two hands in one mouth at the same time. So Uche Nwosu then appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court lambasted him and told him that because he was doubly nominated, he cannot hold the position, and thereby disqualified him. After disqualifying him, this was a pre-election matter, and this is the judgment of the Supreme Court, not Appeal Court. Supreme Court says both the Action Alliance AA, and the All Progressive Congress APC did not sponsor and or field any candidate for the governorship election held in Imo State on the 9th of March 2019. In view of the double nomination of the appellant, because it was Uche Nwosu that appealed, responding by the two political parties aforesaid, and his subsequent disqualification as their gubernatorial candidate, as found by this honorable court in the judgment delivered on 20th December 2019. Now, here, this is Supreme Court. Now, remember that this is a pre-election matter that dragged from the High Court up to the Supreme Court. There is also a post-election tribunal that dragged again from the High Court to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court validated, where the Supreme Court removed Ihedioha and made Hope Uzodinma a governor. But this one is a pre-election matter that continued up until the Supreme Court. The person who took the case to the Supreme Court himself happened to be the Uchenwosu himself. Now, the PDP went back to the Supreme Court in July 2020 and said, good, based on this, your judgment that APC and AA did not field any candidate, vacate the endorsement of Hope Uzodinma because the party can only sponsor. There is no independent candidate in Nigeria. Vacate him and give us the governorship seat. Do you know what the Supreme Court did? The Supreme Court says, no problem. We have received your petition. Bam, they stamped it. We will hear it on 31st October 2023. Nigerians, what do you call that? How can you describe this kind of injustice? That case is built to come up in this month, when the man has already executed his office incomplete. And let's not go to whether he was a good governor or a bad governor. You know me, I don't like to say, oh, he was bad, oh, he was good. It is immaterial. What I'm saying is, what legitimacy does he have to be there? What legitimacy? Mm-hmm. So let's listen to how an analyst dealt with it from Arise TV, if we have that.
Yeah, so before I play the video, I really want Nigerians to ponder on this issue, honestly, because this is how you get to understand the role the judiciary plays in us selecting our leaders. These people, their role, cannot be overlooked. They play a very significant role. But do you know what? It is so unfortunate that they don't do it as patriotic Nigerians. You can imagine this case being filed since 2020. Now they want to hear it in 2023, when Hope Uzodinma is almost finishing his tenure. That is when they want to tell us whether he was actually the winner of this election or not. You can imagine. So even if he's removed now, of what effect would that be? Of what consequence? Will it serve as a way to deter others from, doing dubious things when it comes to election? You can imagine. It means that the real purpose of people even going to court is not being achieved, because we have Supreme Court judges who will take cases the way they want it. This case has just been there. They just lay it there lying, and they just came up suddenly to tell us that they want to start hearing, not even giving the final judgment. Honestly, these things are really the things affecting us the most. So let me play this video so that
sorry, they could finish hearing it and reserve judgment for the next 3 years. Unfortunately. Go ahead.
Oh, just a moment. My system has a glitch.
It's really, when I say that judiciary is either the chamber, the branch of government that is destroying our democracy, people blame politicians. No, I think politicians are as wild as they are because they know that there is a judiciary there that will endorse them. It's a revolving door. Because as Mike Igini would say, if they know that when they get to the judiciary will smash them and smack them hard, they won't do it. But when they tell you to go to court, they tell you to go to court because they know that those people in the court will be there to do what? Cover their back. They will be there to endorse and to validate their crime. And whereas politicians have maybe, in some cases, maximum of 4 years in the executive position, maximum of 8 years, 2 tenures, or 4 years to be in a cycle if you're in the legislature, the judiciary is up until retirement. So we actually have a more latent problem in the bellies of the judiciary because they are quote and unquote seen as professionals. You can't say vote them out in 4 years' time. You can only remove them at the end of their tenure, or either by age or serving full time in 35 years. So you can imagine those people, like the Supreme Court Justice of the Chief Justice of the Federation just made his son a judge. That guy is going to be on the bench there, determining the fate of Nigeria and the fate of our democracy, probably for the next 24 years running. When many people would have been elected and be thrown away, you can't throw them away. So those are actually the people for us to be afraid of. They are the biggest danger of our democracy. Peter Obi waited for his mandate for 3 years, from 2003 to 2006. Why? Because Supreme Court was involved, the judiciary was involved in listening, adjourning, and re-adjourning, and someone was illegally sitting in office for 3 years plus. Who do you blame? Do you blame the politicians that you give the leeway to do it? It's because you allowed them. It's because you told them it is possible. It's because you encouraged them to do it.
Still watching Newsnight. We're live from Nigeria's capital in Abuja. The Supreme Court has fixed October 31 to hear 2 separate appeals seeking to nullify the eligibility of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the 2019 governorship election in Imo State to remove Hope Uzodinma as governor. A notice of hearing served on all parties in the appeal was obtained by our correspondent. The People's Democratic Party and Action People's Party are asking the Supreme Court to give effect to its judgment delivered in 2019 disqualifying Uche Nwosu of the APP from the Imo governorship election on grounds of double nomination. They argue that APC cannot have the governorship in person of Uzodinma when the court had already voided the candidacy of Nwosu, who was nominated by APC for the said 2019 governorship poll. The PDP is also asking the Supreme Court to return its candidate, Emeka Ihedioha, as winner of the election, since APC was precluded from sponsoring 2 candidates in the governorship election.
Okay, I think the video is a bit delayed, but before it comes up, okay.
Frank Tete, a RISE analyst and a lawyer, is here to look at the issues. Good evening and welcome to Newsnight.
My pleasure.
It looks a little funny and it looks like something is getting set to be torpedoed.
Well, it's the Supreme Court moment, because the Supreme Court ought to have resolved these issues. There's no reason why the Supreme Court ought to have allowed a matter which was ripe for its pronouncement 3 years ago, and left it and allowed an election to hold, despite the fact that there was a major contention that the APC did not have a candidate in the person of Hope Uzodinma. It did not have a candidate because the Supreme Court had ruled in a case before it. I think that was brought by Uche Unadi of the Action People's Alliance, and then which had also, which was supported also by the PDP, that having pronounced that Uche Nwosu was sponsored by Action Alliance and the All Progressives Congress, he was disqualified. There was no fact as to the fact that the APC quickly did primaries or that was acceptable, and then Hope Uzodinma became his candidate. Even if there was a valid primary to that extent, the fact that the Supreme Court had made that pronouncement, APC didn't have a candidate for that election.
Let's just quickly ask a simple question here. Did INEC register Hope Uzodinma as the candidate of APC?
Oh, well, of course, that's why it participated in the 2019 elections. But
so where is the lacuna here?
The big lacuna is the fact that the Supreme Court, just before the election, had said that the APC didn't have a candidate. So the APC could not have had a candidate, if whether or not INEC recognized Hope Uzodinma as a candidate. And the applications now before the Supreme Court by the PDP, and interestingly, including the All Progressive Grand Alliance, ABGA, all arguing that if the PDP's own is straightforward, likewise that of APC, but I mean, ABGA, but they're different in the sense that if APC didn't have a candidate in 2019, which means you can't put something on nothing, and which means there will be no governor of APC in Imo State. Now, a PDP is simply saying restore Emeka Ihedioha as governor, while our Progressive Grand Alliance is calling for a fresh election because it expressly asks the court. You know, the interesting thing about the legal process is that it is only when what you ask the court that it gives to you.
They say the court is not a Father Christmas.
Yes. So our Progressive Grand Alliance is saying we want a fresh election because we had argued and pointed to you as a court. But you see, what is really, really terrible here is why, for goodness sake, did the court not make that pronouncement in enforcing its own judgment before the elections?
You just said that that matter wasn't brought immediately before it. Should they adjudicate in a matter that was not brought before it?
It was indeed brought before it. You see, the politics of the court, and this is what the Supreme Court was faced. Justice Wednesday, Justice of the Supreme Court, had said the Imo matter, referring to the pronouncement of Uzodinma as governor, will continually haunt the Supreme Court. So I feel a sense of relief that the Supreme Court has had the courage, despite the provisions of Section 285 of the Constitution, which limits the time for hearing. The Supreme Court does now have mustered the courage to now say no, it wants to hear and put a finality to a pronouncement it had made and an application that has been made before it. It cannot keep it in abeyance. Why would an application be made to the Supreme Court to enforce its judgment before the election, and the Supreme Court refused? But when we see the Supreme Court leadership that has now changed so you know what I mean. There's a new Chief Justice of Nigeria, and you can see a directive that make that application, let that application come for hearing. There is no reason. The Supreme Court must make a pronouncement that you had ruled that APC did not have a candidate that could have gone into an election in 2019. So how come it was allowed and you, as a court, also pronounced that candidate to be governor? So the conundrum here, the weight here, the burden here is on the Supreme Court. It must discharge.
I hope Nigerians, you understand what we are talking here. The Supreme Court had ruled before election that APC couldn't have sponsored someone and AA sponsored the same person. That same person, which is Uche Nwosu, had brought injury to both APC and AA. Is a double candidate. The party stands to suffer. Yet INEC in their brutal, under the same Mahmoud's INEC went on and on their own fielded APC, more or less trying to say, oh, if Uche Nwosu was disqualified, as Frank Tete said here, was there another primary? Was that primary in line with the law? Why would you feel someone when you already know that the Supreme Court said that this person does not, this party does not, because it says the party does not have candidate. It's not the individual that sponsor themselves. And then secondly, the Supreme Court themselves, when you heard cases of APC versus, because if you go and read the judgment, the petition of PDP to the Supreme Court in the case of this same governorship election, after the election, they mentioned this same situation here. And the Supreme Court knocked it that is not on the remit of this particular hearing. Okay, PDP on their own went back to court later on and say, this pre-election matter. Remember that the Bayelsa State governor who won the governorship election under APC lost his place because it was a pre-election matter. He was rehearsing at the square for his swearing in the next day. Nobody challenged the victory he got. But the pre-election matter that was filed in continued, and the Supreme Court gave judgment a night before the swearing in, and that was how he was not sworn in. So PDP went back and more or less saying, please, this is the judgment you gave. APC and AA did not have candidates. Why can't INEC return, because Supreme Court, the court must use their mouth to say, remove this return letter of, what did they call it again? That letter. The letter they are giving, certificate of return. The court must use their mouth to say, remove this certificate of return from this person, give it to this person before it is done. So what this PDP went back to court to say is, now that you people have ruled that APC does not have a candidate, the certificate of return that was issued to APC, let them remove it. I am validly, we as a party, we were validly involved in the campaign. And after APC that you yourself have declared have more votes is now out of the way, our party is the next. And the Supreme Court looked at the petition and said, we will hear it 31st August 2023. Isn't that an abuse?
Is this not just medicine after death, like people will say?
Well, it's not. You know why I say so? If they eventually rule in favor of APC, it can't be medicine after death. Either will not get his mandate back.
And be there for how long?
He'll be there for the next 4 years.
Okay, just like what happened to Peter Obi.
Yes, of course. He'll get his mandate back. And the poison we have in Imo State will be out of the way. Now, the likes of Labour Party that is feeding their candidates, well, they will go and wait for the next 4 years before they come back again. Me, I am usually interested in the rule of law. I really don't care who it benefits. Let justice be served and be seen to have been served. Supreme Court, Nigerian judiciary, indeed, even if you people think you're delivering judgment, does that judgment equate to justice? Do Nigerians feel that justice are being served? This is one question when these men and women, they are in their privacy, reflecting, they should ask themselves, this job we are doing, the people we say we are doing it for, do they really feel that we are serving or working for them? This job we are doing, the impact of these judgments we are delivering, how is it affecting society? Is it affecting society for good or for bad? This thing, the court is meant to deter criminals. In the context of political criminality, our judgment, is it deterring politicians or is it encouraging them to keep doing what they are doing?
Let me continue with the video.
Yeah.
Matter.
Don't you empathize with the Supreme Court
A
of
lot,
Nigeria
a lot,
with
a lot.
the myriads of cases that they have and very few on the bench.
I not empathize with them. I sympathize and pity the Supreme Court, particularly on this one. How is it going to resolve it? Yeah. Because it is tied with the constitutional provision. You know, but you see, it may have a way of escape in the sense that it is not asking it to revisit a matter or review a matter or a judgment. It is being asked to simply enforce a judgment it has made. Now, if you look at the inherent
that judgment emanated from the High Court.
And then it went through, though it's a pre-election matter, that went through all the stages of the appellate process. Yeah. Now, the Supreme Court has immense powers under Section 6 of the Constitution, granting, and you see, as lawyers, we say, we try to hide it under the inherent powers of the court to do justice. So the court at this time must now sit down and ask itself. It has made decisions like this in Zamfara. And then it will not say, look,
would it be discretionary here, or would they be talking facts of the law?
No, I think they will be talking law. It's not, you see, the facts are clear. Yeah. The law is this, because whatever pronouncement the Supreme Court has made becomes a law. The law that is on ground now is that the interpretation is that for the purpose of the double domination that Uche Nwosu enjoyed from Action Alliance and APC, nullify the fact that APC didn't have a candidate. So how come as a court you also pronounce the party that ought not to have a candidate as the winner of the election of Imo State governorship election?
What went wrong there?
So it's politics of the court, and that is what the court appears to be set to correct. The court will now start asking itself, because I believe the prophecies of late Justice Wednesday has started to haunt the court so quickly by saying, look, the Imo matter will haunt you as a Supreme Court if you don't address it. And in this case, that is maybe the only reason why the court will dare to say, go back and, do something that would have actually hurt itself. Where it failed to have made a pronouncement 3 years ago, it has now had the courage to say, no, we must make a pronouncement. And I think that should be more of a credit to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, because this is coming under his watch. The expectation is that Nigerians are watching very closely. On the 31st, perhaps there will be an outright judgment, because the briefs have already been canvassed, they've been submitted and canvassed, arguments have been canvassed. So, and again, I like the fact that the PDP lawyer from the reports I read is saying that courts, we are not asking you to review your judgment. We're simply saying, give effect to your judgment. If you say that APC didn't have a candidate, then simply declare that APC doesn't have a candidate to the extent
that there was an error in that judgment then.
Well, there is no error. There is a judgment of the Supreme Court, which is the fact, which is the state of affair now.
Is there anything wrong if, the Supreme Court, with such brilliant minds, great philosophers and the rest, if they find it that, look, there was a miscarriage of justice, what is there to reverse?
You see, I cannot attempt to, prognosticate what the Supreme Court will
do.
Their
minds, what's on their minds.
I may know that, but because of the sub-judicial nature of the situation now, I perhaps may not want to. However, look at it. This matter is straightforward in one way. The difficulty is in the resolution. The straightforward nature of the matter is that APC didn't have a candidate when it went into election. Yet the APC, a self-declared candidate, so to speak, won the election in the person of Hope Uzodimma. Now, in that case, and affirmed by the Supreme Court. Now, what would the Supreme Court do when it now goes back to its earlier judgment before the election, where it affirmed that APC didn't have a candidate? So the Supreme Court it has a very straightforward position in that regard. The difficulty is this: what will now happen? It will either think of restoring Meka Hedioha if it stands by its earlier decision, or will it agree with the All Progressive Grand Alliance that a fresh election be conducted in Imo State? Whereas Hope Uzodimma has been governor for such a long time and is hoping to get re-elected. So this conundrum, is this an issue of justice? Is an issue of politics? Or to be resolved. This burdensome resolution is upon the Supreme Court to give to Nigerians. And that's what's making it exciting. And again, the Supreme Court will now see this as a golden opportunity, possibly to redeem itself concerning the Imo issue.
Well, redemption.
I love the word golden opportunity. Just like we said in the presidential listing, what have you got to lose, Supreme Court? You are the final. The person you keep there as president will be president, and if he remains president, will have power over you. The person you remove as president will be gone, and any power he would have used to witch hunt you will go with him. So I don't even believe that the Supreme Court is under any form of pressure from Aso Rock or executive. Whatever they do it for their own selfish interest. They do it because they think that as long as they remain, this so-and-so person remain there, it will benefit them. After all, it is under the watch of these people that they are making themselves their children judge. Because they know, as it were, that if I fire this man, his power to even come to hunt me is no longer there. Is it not true? But if I keep him, there is a story, I don't know, for those of you who are Christians listening to me now, there's a story I often refer to in the Bible, the story of when Elisha made a prophecy that there will be a lot of food in the land in Samaria the next day. And some leprous men who found themselves in a situation where, like, if we go back to the city, the hunger is too much, we're going to die. If we remain here, we're going to die. If we go to the camp of the enemy that has made this problem for us, we will either die or live. Supreme Court justices, let me tell you something, judges. If you keep a wrong person in power, the chances that the person will come to hunt you is 50-50. The chances that the person will promote you is 50-50. If you remove a wrong person from the power, any capacity the person has to hunt you is gone with the person. Make the right choice. Make the right choice, Supreme Court.
Yes.
In the case of the Hope Uzodinma 2, Supreme Court, you have a golden opportunity to make the right choice. It's as simple as saying, whereas we listen to the case of the post-election cases, this person, in our own judgment, has more votes. However, whereas we look at the pre-election matter, though he has more votes, he shouldn't even be there in the first place. Therefore, pam, Nigerians will clap for you if you restore justice even after 4 years. But if you find a way to botch this particular one again, according to Justice Sentus Nweze, that was buried over this weekend, his prophecies will continue to haunt you people in that Supreme Court. This is a golden opportunity of self-redemption. And I pray that you, Supreme Court, you take advantage of it to redeem yourself. Thank you.
Yes, Doc, thank you. It's really a golden opportunity for them to correct this mistake. And we pray that this kind of mistake does not repeat itself again. You know, even in the upcoming judgment that you'll be giving as regards to the sitting president, they shouldn't rule the kind of judgment that after years they will tell us they want to reveal it, they want to go back to it, they want to start cleaning up again. Because I don't know, these people, they just keep wasting the little resources we have. We know all these court cases, they take a lot. I mean, monetary wise, they suck a lot from individuals and even from the government. So they should help us. These are the ways and the means that Nigerian money is being wasted, and we've got to stop all this. So, Doc, let's take some of the comments here and we call it a day.
As I said, I am actually not in favor of APC or PDP or Labour LP when it comes to justice. To be honest, if an APC man wins election in my state, fair and square, it will be injustice for him to be denied his mandate. Justice is supposed to be blind. It's supposed to be fact-based, law-based, and constitutional-based. The cry we have been screaming since February till now, it's not that somebody is my candidate or not my candidate, but because INEC abused the process. I don't care if PDP gets their mandates back and deny Labour Party, whom I support in Imo State, from getting their mandate. Let it be seen that because justice was served, Labour Party could not even get their way. That's my own. All I can say is they will give PDP the mandate back instead of conducting an election. It's the same thing, okay? So that's my thinking.
Yes.
So I am always pro-justice. Let justice be served. Let justice be served. That's the most important thing. Because if justice is served, everybody's going to be happy. Even the loser will be happy, because deep down in the person's heart, the person will know that I am not the person who should be there. Should have pointed out these things in the tribunal. Yes, they did. I read the judgment. They pointed it out, and it was referred to as pre-election matter. PDP pointed it out, and they keep hammering it that it was a pre-election matter. And remember that PDP won in the tribunal and won in the appeal court. It was at the Supreme Court that everything tumbled. Remember that everything tumbled. Even at that, I read the PDP's petition, the response to the Supreme Court, where they mentioned that this guy doesn't even have any reason to even appeal. After all, he shouldn't be fielded. I have it, and the court still went ahead. The Supreme Court just had this ruling against. No, the ruling was not had against it. This ruling was had in 2019. This ruling was in 2019. And PDP went back to court to ask them, hence you gave this ruling that in the first place, APC does not even have any candidates. Why should you people not allow INEC to retrieve the certificate of return and give it to us? Because in the absence of Action Alliance and APC, the next party that won the majority of the vote and fulfilled the constitutional requirement is PDP. And the Supreme Court said, we'll give you date for the hearing. And since 2019, they just gave date, 31st. I'm ashamed of Nigeria. Why are the masses too afraid to revolt? Well, I don't know, but blood keep flowing. When you see desperate people, they may not mind opening bullets. My question is, if the FBI releases document before Friday, can it still impact the judgment? It depends on which one comes first. It depends on which one. It's like a relay. Which one comes first? If they have dumped their judgment and run off, they will leave it to you people, whatever you think. How do we know what is really happening in this country? Many news online, but we don't know which is true. That's why we said this night, we don't know if indeed some judges have recused themselves or they have not. But we presented it, assuming they recused themselves, this is the consequences and the implication. Assuming they have not recused themselves, this is the burden of that should be on their conscience. That's the way we presented it. So we try our best here to tell you live and direct what we have verified. How do we know what is really happening? Okay, so that is it. Okay.
Yes, Doc, thank you very much.
We've done more than 1 hour now. Thank you, Nigerians.
Yeah, so guys, thank you all for joining us tonight. You can also show this channel a love by buying us a super chat. I don't think that will be too much a demand. And please like this video so that YouTube can recommend it to others. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Let's build a family together. Turn on the notification bell so that you get all our updates. So with this, we want to say thank you very much for being a part of today's live show. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Good night to you, Nigerians. Doc, thank you for all your wonderful contributions. Good night.
Have a good night too. Bye.
Bye.